10 minutes ago, I was worried. There was like 6 people here, right? And we still fill from the back, so it's kind of like church still. Good. Yep. There's Dave. Look at there, man. See, guys with Z's have appreciation for being forced to sit in the back, right? All the way through school, right? Yep. All right, well, we will call this meeting to order, not knowing if I have a quorum or not. We'll figure that out here in a minute. Looks like it. Nose counting, anyway. So we'll open with prayer. Pastor C.
Yes, sir.
We're going to open with prayer.
Okay. I'm qualified for that.
Someday.
Can I excuse this one? Thank you. Lord be with you. Thank you for being here this morning. Gracious God, we give thanks for the gathering of these people as we discuss the work of the church, the call of your mission. Inspire us, God, so that we might be a church that reflects your will and brings your kingdom here on earth. We ask all these things in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, Pastor. The minutes from the May 6th meeting were available on our webpage and were sent out again yesterday, thanks to Bunny's good work. I'll entertain a motion to approve the May 6 minutes. Thank you, George. Got a motion? Second, please. Thank you, Olin. Discussion? Questions?
Oh, can we get it with the second?
Olin. Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Motion carried. All right. We have a full agenda, and so we're going to push right through it. This is the agenda as we have it so far. Financial information, we're going to have several ministry reports. In addition to that, we're going to update you on what we're doing in the youth ministry area. And then talk about some of the priorities that the council will be working on in the last 4 to 5 months of the year. So we'll begin with the financial report. We have a couple of slides on that, I think. There we go. The complete set of financials were sent out again in what Bunny sent out yesterday. And this is more of a summary. I kind of look at this as if we were a corporation, you're the shareholders. And generally speaking, shareholders don't need all the details. They want to hear the high points. But in case, if you do need all the details, the financials are available. So on the revenue side, one of the things we talked about in May is still continuing in July. The 2 trends that we saw, the pledge offerings are up and non-pledge offerings are down. That has continued, and I think it's pretty predictable how that'll end up at the end of the year. The good news of this, and if you've got any really detailed question, I got Jim right here. So the good news about this is that July and August, generally speaking, are really tough months for us cash flow wise. And because the pledge offerings have continued up all the way through the year, we're actually in a better position than that. Jim, you want to comment on that at all, or take over from here? Jim?
You want me to say something?
Yeah.
The only really high point that I want to point out is that at the beginning of the year, we borrowed $50,000 from seeds to finance the camp for the summer kids discount. We paid $3,000 back, and actually in the cash flow. Hello, Break It brothers and sisters. Are you there? Okay, is that better? we have enough in the cash flow to pay back all of seeds, and we will probably do that in September. And that is the first time in about 2 or 3 years that we have not had a negative balance with the seeds account. So we made it on our own this year without any help. And that's thanks to all of you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yep. No. Thank you, Jim. Next slide, just to give you a little complete there on the financial side. On the expense side, while income is up ahead of schedule, staff and all the ministers have done a great job of watching their expenses and are actually, we're a net positive on the expense side. So we're really nicely ahead, which is a nice picture to see this time of year compared to what normally is. So kudos to all of you for your pledges and your consistency with how we've gone through the first 7 months of the year. All right, a motion to accept the financials as presented, please. Okay. Mrs. Blease, Mrs. Timmons, right there. Okay. Discussion?
There's a mistake on there.
Questions?
Admin benevolence says actual 26,000, budget 27, and it says it's under instead of over.
No, it's under.
In parentheses.
It's under, we spent less than the budget. It's under, we spent less than the budget.
It's over the budget.
No, it's under, 26 is less.
Because the actual,
26, the actual was less.
What was the question here?
am I confused?
So the question is,
A bracket means under on expenses. Yeah. On the expense side, brackets are good. On the over/under, right?
Too far away to read lips.
All right, good. All right, no further questions. All in favor of accepting? That's all you're going to do is accept. You don't have to prove. Just accept that you've read them, you've seen them, and you know what them, and they make sense to you. All say aye. Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Motion carried. You guys are doing really good. All right. Let's see. Good piece of news here, and we've reported that, but kudos back to you. In the spring, we had quite a few projects pop up that were not planned, as happens when you have your own facility. And the building maintenance team came up with a budget for all of those items, $6,400, and you guys exceeded it by $6, I think. So that's amazing. You talk about God working inside us, right? And he gave us $6 for a couple of cups of coffee at Starbucks. So I'm very thankful for that. Anyway, thank you very much. That worked out extremely well, and we're very appreciative of that. We do have an item coming up later in the agenda, our wonderful HVA system that's about 20 years old, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Ministries report. We have a couple of vacancies that are in the process of being filled. We still have, we don't have a chairman for fellowship team. We're in the process of filling that position, and Daphne and Camille and Kim are filling in, backfilling, and doing a very nice job with that. They've all, I think, at one time shared this group, so it's we've got some good experienced people with that. But that's where we're at with fellowship. Linda and Deb are working on inside the ministry team groups in an effort to fill that position, but we're backfilled nicely as we go into the fall. Next one, Matt. In the social outreach, I wanted to spend some time with that. We have a new chairperson, Vicki Rogers, and we are taking a new direction with the social outreach. So I have a couple of slides to kind of give you a feel for this and get your reaction, because obviously you all are going to be involved in this directly. The background, social outreach had been sort of our evangelism effort to reach out into the community, and we had been involved for many years with Family Promise, of which that discontinued last year, and so we had begun to think about, all right, so what else could we do in this area? How do we advance the name of Tree of Life into our community and reach out to our community and be good stewards into our community? And through our strategic planning process, we came up with a couple of what we thought were key initiatives that we should be able to do inside the social outreach. One was, first of all, we're in an area that has great growth happening. Mini boom, perhaps, would be a good word for it. And we wanted to really ramp up our evangelism and our profile, if you will, here, so that the community that we're involved in knows who Tree of Life is. The second part of that is that we made an assumption that in our congregation we have already tons of connections to other good active community groups. And why not merge those two ideas together, trying to raise our identity and at the same time capitalize on the human resources that are already volunteering elsewhere. So we have redone our mission and vision for social outreach to look like this. Our mission is to identify, maintain, and nurture the connections that Tree of Life members have in our community right now, and nurture those relationships with these groups to raise Tree of Life identity and assist these groups consistent with our own vision, mission, goals, and values. And our vision for this is that our community is well connected to Tree of Life through these members. There may be many churches in this county, but everyone knows and appreciates Tree of Life because of our members. So Vicky's first charge is she's going to survey all y'all. She's going to be contacting you through emails and through phone calls to find out what groups that you're actively involved in, and if you would be our ambassador, Tree of Life's ambassador to that group. And then as we gather information about who is connected and how we're connected, and we find out more about those organizations, A, we can be connected to them and help them out, and B, they'll get to know us here at Tree of Life and know about our mission and our vision and about our inviting, inspiring, and including. So that's kind of the game plan at this high level, just getting started right now. Vicki has just accepted the role and is getting organized to make that happen. So hopefully what will happen as a result of this is that we're going to have 10 or 20 positive connections with other community groups, probably not for profits, not other churches per se, but there could be a ministry that another church sponsors that's very much aligned with us. So it doesn't mean that we would not be connected with other churches that way. Pardon me?
We do that with St. Vincent de Paul.
We already have that with St. Vincent de Paul. So, and that's a perfect example, actually, of how we're already connected. And I'm looking around the room today, and I already know that there are people that are actively involved, engaged in another organization that is close to them, that they have passion for, that they've been involved in a long time. So your thoughts about this? Objections, concerns, worries, excitement? Excitement. Got one excitement. Good. Thank you, Daphne. All right. So Daphne's excited. Yeah, Julie.
What if it's something that really doesn't support our mission? I mean, is there some sort of thing, because people can be involved in all kinds of things, but what if it doesn't, is there some kind of process?
So do you hear the question? What happens if there's a group that you're involved in that doesn't really align with our mission and vision, and most importantly, our values? Chances are we're not going to get connected in a way that we would with others, where our values, and I think values is the most important thing. If our values at a cross timber to each other, we're not going to probably be involved in that. One of the things that the committee will be doing is looking at those things and then coming back to recommendations to the council and saying, we would like to get connected with this group here. Here's our research on this. Here's what they do. Here's how they do it. Here's how they're funded. Here is their mission and vision, and here's their values. Here's the pros and cons for us getting connected with them. And obviously, values would be a big strike. Yes?
How are we defining community? How far does community
The question is, how do we define the community? We haven't defined that yet. I would say we started out thinking Montgomery County, but there may be something in the county just north of us or just south of us that we think we ought to be involved in. And it's a member here that's already engaged and connected to that. So I don't think we're going to narrow that other than the only resources that we have with that. Pastor, you got something to add to that?
Can you give me lead 5?
The other thing we have to consider is that our region goes from here all the way to New Orleans as a synod, right? So, I mean, obviously, what we talked about, community begins, could be broader and from multiple vantage points because our synod is so wide. It's one of the challenges of being in this area. However, welcome to Texas, welcome to being Lutheran. The goal would be, how do we best engage the people that we have with the needs that are out there? And if that's broader, then I don't think that's going to hold us back.
Yeah, and this is so new at this point. We probably have more questions than we have answers, but that's a great question. We'll see where that takes us. The Lord is taking care of us, so He'll figure out what we're doing. Dennis, and then you. Okay.
My question was, do you have an example of an organization that doesn't fit our needs?
All right.
It's the best opportunity of all.
So here's the past president putting me on the spot. Yeah, give me an example. Let me tick off somebody. Oh, good.
I would say like our golf association that does fundraisers just to raise money for themselves instead of they really don't go out to the community.
All right, there's a good one. I had one a lot more controversial that I was thinking of, so I like that. You got something against golf? Wait a minute.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's something that I think that Tree of Life has done a good job working with different groups like Family Promise. They just did the back. There's always something where we're kind of on a Family Promise we were deep into, but there was a lot of groups that would do a lot of really good stuff on the surface. But I think that I think this is a long overdue and I'm really excited.
Thank you. And there was a, yes.
Yeah.
To be clear, is the ultimate goal to reach out to groups to become members of the congregation?
All right. So the question was, is the ultimate goal to reach out to bring in members?
Yeah, to bring members to our church and also at the same time to market what this church is. Different organizations.
Yes, that is certainly. Yep. Certainly Matthew 28, go out, preach and teach and baptize is the ultimate goal. And so we're certainly with that. The idea is the better well-known you are, that is marketing at the fundamental level of spreading the word of who you are without spending any money to do that. We don't have Coca-Cola's marketing budget. So the better people know us, part one, we become a higher identity. The second thing is, and if you can think about the first time that you came to this church, let's say, or a lot of us have moved around, so we've been in other churches. One of the first things that you are thinking of is, do I fit? Do I belong? Are they about some of the things that are important to me? Can I support this church? And if you find out that there are 7 or 8 really worthy causes that we're connected to, and one of them happens to be one of your favorite causes as well, the answer is, I do fit. They already are doing some of the things that I think are important. So when people walk in, they see, right now, they see a loving church, a fun-loving church, a caring church, a church that really believes in its mission of inviting, inspiring, and including all people. they see that, and maybe in a year or two they also see, and holy cow, they're connected everywhere. They have people involved everywhere. This is a happening place. I like to be in a happening place. Woo! This is getting a lot more activity than I thought. This is nice. Thank you, Jim. Yep.
It seems like you're talking more about branding and getting our name out there. How about social outreach and doing something for the community that we're here?
Yeah. How we tried to address that is we could pick one thing. Like Family Promise, we were involved in one thing, and with the coats in the winter and those things like that.
That's St. Vincent de Paul.
Thank you. We're still doing that. We're not stopping doing all those things. We thought that we could better do that social outreach through connections that already exist. And so let me just take one down the road further. We found an organization that aligns with us in values, and we have a very active person that's going to be our liaison to that. And we find out that they have special needs at a certain point of the year that we as a congregation could rally. And that could be our focus for that quarter or that half a year or the whole year on that one group. Even though we may have 10 or 20 connections, we decided to really focus our energies and our resources and everybody that's involved in that. And that way, we're actually not paving a new road, we're going on the road and widening it. Does that make sense, Jim?
And could I add to that for a moment? So here's the reality of when we start new ministries in the church. Family Promise was started by something that I had heard about when I was a seminary student in Ohio. And then when I got approached here, I found some folks. I said, hey, why don't we look into this? And we started it, and off we went to the running. Traditionally speaking, statistically speaking, if the pastor is the one that drives the boat on it, there's a 1 in 10 chance it's going to fail. In other words, it doesn't hold up very well. I don't know if that's...
1 in 10 chance of failing or succeeding? Good chance.
There's a good chance it's not going to sustain. It doesn't hold up, and you can talk about the numbers any way you want. However, if that idea comes from within the congregation, if one of the reasons why St. Vincent de Paul works so well is because it's people in this church that were passionate about those connections.
And because we helped to start it.
And because you helped to start it, it makes a big difference. Pastors come and go. We die, we live, we get other calls, but congregants, some of you we can't get rid of. Yay, that's good. And as a result, it has more sustaining power and more passion, and we're able to be more effective in the community this way. And this was an approach to do two things. One, let's not reproduce the wheel again. There's no reason to start another St. Vincent de Paul on the west side of Conroe when the one that we have is working just fine. And then two, how do we continue to stay connected to it and be fluid with the needs of the community? If we say we're going to start something and then 15 years from now we're still doing it, but there's not a need for it, we've kind of missed the boat. And so in this regard, we use the congregation as a way of getting a good dipstick test of where the needs are versus trying to create something out of nothing.
Okay, you get the last word, and we're moving on.
I'm not sure if this has ever been done here. I've been a member here a short time, but I suppose it's a real markets a house by advertising coaching.
Mike, Kim, would you? I can't hear him.
Why not do an open house here, advertise it, and let folks come in and see who we are? That's just one strategy.
There's an idea.
That is the ultimate goal, but I mean
Sure.
the ultimate strategy. But.
Yeah, like I said, we are right now at the formation stage of setting some goals and some visions on that, and how that turns out and how that looks over the next year or two and how we go about that is still yet to be determined, and that's a great idea. All right. Well, I got a lot of feedback for that. Thank you very much, and I can tell you we have lots of council members here, so we're listening to that, and my read is positive with some reservations. And I'd say the council kind of feels the same way at this point. This is a new venture. I don't know if anyone's really done social outreach this way before. So we are kind of cutting a new swath, if you will, and we'll see how that turns out. And I'm going to move on because it's 9:45. All right. Building report. We have the need for replacement of an air conditioning system. Chuck or John, you want to take this one?
Why don't we both come on?
All right.
Just like to mention a word or two about the air conditioning systems in general. John and I and the building team have been focusing on inspections and modifications to the systems. We have 10 systems total, 6 over there and 6 in the sanctuary, 4 here. And we've modified all the systems in the fellowship building to be accessible, that is, the filters to be accessible from a ladder and the floor, so we don't have to go up in the attic. It's always been a problem, and we feel changing out the filters is going to add life to those units. The one unit we've had problems with is this 2-ton unit serving the youth room, or that expansion area, rooms 7, 8, and 9. We had a $200 maintenance expense earlier this year, and the unit currently is out of commission. We have a rough estimate to repair it, but considering the problems we've had in the unit, with the unit in the past, we've decided to go with a brand new unit. The cost is $65.70. And that's a complete new unit, including a lot of ducting modifications. We're running new returns in room 9 and room 7. Should increase the efficiency quite a bit. It's a SEER 14 unit, which again will save us some money in operating costs. We have some funds available. There's an emergency repair budget or balance of $5,100, and we have a building maintenance budget balance of $2,900. That would go a long way to paying for it, but we can't use our building maintenance budget. We'll still need that for the remainder of the year. So we're looking to the congregation to again step up and make a donation of whatever amount they can to offset the $6,500 cost. Jim?
How much are you looking for? I mean, obviously you'd love somebody to just say, hey, here's $500, right? But as far as difference goes between what we have, 5124, and the 6570, if people stepped up and said, hey, you know, the 5 of us split it up and here's the difference to make that happen, would that be enough, or are you trying to make up as much?
Well, we'd like to see the whole 6570 come in. Then we'd keep this $5,100 for other emergencies in the future. I do also have a list of new items over and above the items that we funded through Adopt a Project.
We'd also like to point out there's 5 more systems that are old. They're using the R22 Freon, which is going to be phased out effective January 2020. So when one of those goes, we really need to buy a new machine, new system. We can't just replace the fan or this or that. We're going to have to pay the freight for the entire system, heating, cooling, the whole work, inside, outside. So it's not a trivial thing to plan for that eventuality, because it is coming.
more questions?
And Jim, let me kind of add on the financial side. We're not asking you for permission to replace the unit. It's already been started. And the reason we could do that is that we had $5,000 of emergency funds and we had balance in our maintenance, so we could just go ahead and do that. But we wanted you to be informed of this and of the situation that we're having. So if we wind up spending all of our $5,000 on this and we don't get any funds back, then we don't have the luxury of being able to just handle things inside the realm of our budget. So we're putting out the plea. Help us fund this unit, knowing that we're going to have other units that are going to come up. But the better we can protect that emergency fund and the budget that remains, the better we can handle Chuck's list as we keep our property in good shape. Tied to that, sort of in the building world, you might have noticed that we have paved stones out there, okay? And I've asked Pastor to give us a little update on what's going on with that. This is really cool.
So, since I have been here, we have done several funerals where the person's ashes have been interred in the ground outside of the cemetery that isn't ours. It's not, it was a family plot that was given to the church when we purchased the land. And one of the questions I have always wondered is could we keep doing that? And is there a way for us to give thanks for the gifts that people have given this church above and beyond, extraordinary needs? And so basically, the combination of those two things came together with a conversation with the Jorgensen family. Dr. Jorgensen, who's a vet in San Marcos, his mom and dad are actually, their ashes are interred here in the cemetery. And he and I began a conversation where basically he was willing to pay for us to create pavers that we could engrave that will go all the way down basically all the way down and around the tree. And those will be laid this week, and then next week during worship we're going to dedicate it and baptize his grandson, who is here from Australia. He said, do you think we could baptize my grandson at the same place his grandparents were members? I said, yeah, I think we can make that happen. Baptisms are pretty easy. We got water. We're good. Needless to say, what this means is that we have a way for folks to be buried here at Tree of Life if that's what they would like to do. We also have a way to give thanks for the gifts that people have given this congregation. And ultimately, my goal is that this path will go all the way around the building so that one day we can talk about truly being surrounded by all the saints. We have the space. Some of it we can't really build on. Why don't we use it for something holy? So, needless to say, we're on this is beginning. The fact that it's paid for, it's going to happen, makes it really wonderful, and I think ultimately will only enrich our space for the better.
So Larry and Kevin have been our points on this, working with the contractors and working with the providers who would do the engraving in the stones, and we will have prices for you to be able to buy a small paper, big paper. Big papers cost more than small papers, of course, and commemorate and memorialize whatever is important to you. So we're excited about this. I think it's going to be very, very cool and quite unique way of using that space out there. Again, it's interesting how God provides and pushes and pulls.
Back from my cruise was, by the way, Emily's leaving. It's great. And what are we going to do about it? And so there was a lot of conversation about, where do we go with this? And quite frankly, we have someone within our own congregation who has a real drive to do this ministry. And so, why reinvent the wheel when you have someone who has a calling? Bunny has been the administrator in this congregation for 6 years, and she said to me, I'm really tired of numbers and letters and articles and trying to keep up with you. Not necessarily in that order, I might add. You got to have a little feel for that, you really do. And she goes, I want to do ministry. I said, all right, if you want to do ministry, you're going to have to go back to school. And you're going to have to, you're going to work hard. But if you want it, you can have it. So this morning I can tell you that Bunny Stutes is probably most likely going to be our youth director. Bunny, come on up here for a second. Without a doubt, she is probably the most qualified